Greetings, everyone. Welcome. This is Louie Santos from iAwake Technologies, and welcome to the Power of the Vision Quest workshop. Today, it's a very special presentation. So before we get started, let's get everybody settled in first. I can see like a lot of people are still coming online for this presentation today. So if you can see the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom applications, please say hi and tell us where you're from. It would be great not just to connect with us, but also to connect with the uh, Vision Quest community. We
Yeah.
have Michael from Colombia, Silvio from London. We have someone from Washington, from Bay Area,
Hola,
from
amiga.
Oregon, Nova Scotia, Canada, from France, from Berkeley, from London, from Jersey, from Seattle. Hi, everyone. Welcome. From Greece, we have somebody from Greece. Sarasota, from the Netherlands. Okay, I think everybody's still coming in. Hi everyone. Hi. Amazing. So we're so excited to do the Power of the Vision Quest with you. So in today's workshop, we will explore why finding your vision is essential to your emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth. How finding your path and purpose can put our lives in perspective and help heal our deepest wounds, and how we can use psychoacoustic technology and the wisdom of ancestors to find our way, and how this modern technology and working with a guide and a supportive community can help us answer our soul's most important question: what am I here to do? And then later during this workshop, we will also do a Q&A with John Dupuy and Dr. Bob Wetters. So if you have any questions, we have a feature here in Zoom that's called Q&A. So please click that box. If you have any questions, please type in your questions there in that section, and we'll get to your questions later during the Q&A portion. And also later during the webinar, we will introduce you our next iteration of the 5-day virtual vision quest, a 5-day live online experience to connect with your inner wisdom, find your purpose, and be of greater service in the world. So Sabi's one of our team members here. Sabi, if you can please put the link in the chat box, that would be great. And now, allow me to introduce our workshop host today, John Dupuy and Dr. Bob Wetters. So Dr. Bob Wetters is here. He's a highly regarded addiction educator, recovery coach, author, and public speaker. He's also a dear iAwake friend and creator of some of our greatest guided meditation products, the freedom of forgiveness and the gift of gratitude. Over the course of his professional career, Dr. Bob has provided tens of thousands of hours of therapeutic counseling and recovery coaching to satisfied clients. He has also committed to over 4 decades to teaching, training, and inspiring graduate level mental health providers at several Southern California universities, including helping to develop their nationally accredited addiction study certificate and mindfulness-based clinical training coursework. His 2 most recent books in addiction recovery are currently in press with Cambridge University Press. And now, if you're a longtime iAwaker, if you're a longtime member of the iAwake community, you're very already familiar with the name John Dupuy. John is the CEO of iAwake Technologies and author of Integral Recovery, a revolutionary approach to the treatment of alcoholism and addiction. Now, late in the 1980s, John went on his own personal vision quest in the Sierra Madre Mountains, where he received his vision of the wolf and discovered his soul's purpose as a guide. Since then, he has facilitated many questers on their journeys to discover their soul's vision and their path. John has been working professionally with brainwave entrainment technology since 2004, and has developed a passion for the power and efficacy of this technology to support emotional healing, deepen spiritual growth, and enhance the focus and flow functions of our brains. John and Dr. Bob, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And yeah, take it away, and I'll see everybody later.
Thank you, Louie. Appreciate you, brother. It's a real honor and just a great privilege for me to be working with Bob. And I know you heard some of the things he did, but for me, he's a man of great learning, great intuitive ability, very eloquent, can communicate super well, and super well. That's a great phrase. And has great compassion. So we've been friends for, I don't know, a long time now. And when I'm really going through it, this is the man, that I talk to, and we've been there for each other. And anyway, I'm so glad that you're here, Bob, and we'll just let this thing roll.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, John. I appreciate your love and compassion. We've been together super well for a super long time.
Super good. Super good.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you. John, do you mind if I kick things off with a poem by Rumi? Would that be okay?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this. It came to me this morning. I'm just going to talk to you, John. And 30 years ago, almost to the day, I was on sabbatical. I taught for 7 years at the local university, and I was on sabbatical up at Pacifica Graduate Institute near Santa Barbara. And there was a presentation going on, and there was a woman that stood up next to me, and she recited Rumi to the presenter. That was the first time I'd ever heard Rumi, and this is the poem. I want to share the poem that she shared. It's been very meaningful to me, and because you and I are both musicians, among other things, I think it may touch you too. You're likely aware of it yourself, but I thought it might set the tone for today. It's maybe as an anchor or a guide for our conversation. The poem is short. It goes like this. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground.
Amen. Thank you. And I just want to thank everybody again for being here. We have people that are from our iLife community, which was always like the home church for me, with Ken and company and Corey DeVoe and others. And then we have our iAwake crowd, and then we have our Deep Transformation podcast people. So I just want to, and some of you overlap all the same thing, but I feel very, very close, very connected to all of you. And this is a tremendous opportunity. And this is the third time. This is kind of a preparation for a longer online vision quest, which we'll be doing. Louie will inform you the dates coming up in the near future. And this started during the pandemic when everything got, shaken up. And I had a friend who was a good marketer and a communications guy. And he says, well, what are you really good at? Well, vision questing, that's something I've done and led, hundreds of people out on Vision Quest over the years. When I helped develop the program, I was one of the founders of Passages to Recovery, which is a wilderness program for adults to take them out in the wilderness and work on our stuff, right? And get sober and be away from everything. Very powerful. We prayed, we meditate, we did sweat lodges, but the program culminated with a Vision Quest experience, which is like, 3 or 4 days of fasting out by yourself. And it's very powerful. And almost 100% of everybody, they weren't forced to do this, but by the time they got there, after their 8 or 12 weeks or however long, they were ready to do it. So I definitely learned a lot. And I started with kids, younger, adolescents. And I have a song about the Vision Quest I wrote, and then I play around the campfire. Maybe during the program, I'll dust it off and bring it and sing it to everyone. Yeah. But I just kind of gave them the idea of the Vision Quest, and they were going, well, why can't we do a Vision Quest? I said, God bless you guys. That's awesome. But this is really for men. These were mainly boys I was working with. This is for adults. And it's not, it's a warrior thing. It's not just something you could, let's do a Vision Quest, like turning on the Vision Quest channel. So let's, and boy, was that a smart tool. They're like, we want to do a damn Vision Quest. And so that's how it started. And it was very successful. And the results were very profound. Now, the roots of the Vision Quest has various, for me, and of course, it goes back to Native American a sacrament, if you will. And I'm more familiar with the Lakota because I was connected with and a friend of Wallace Black Elk, who was a very powerful medicine man. And he deeply affected my life and continues to do it. So I learned it from there, that influence. Also in the Judeo-Christian thing, we have Moses, right, going out on the mountain, and he gets the vision of the 10 Commandments. He goes off alone. We have Jesus going, and then Gospel Matthew, I think it is, going out for 40 days and 40 nights before he begins his, mission of teaching and gathering his disciples and stuff. And he goes out there and he confronts his demons, and that's what initiates him. So, and also for our purposes, a very, very important one that I've really learned and drawn from, there's the story of the Holy Grail by Christine de Troyes. And for all you French speakers out there, sorry about that, but it was the earliest written document, as far as I can tell, of the story of the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail, you have Parsifal, who's a young fool who splits off. He sees some knights riding in the woods. I think it was 3 knights, and he's living with his mother. All is good. He's a child, and he sees these knights, and he goes, "Doing, that's what I've got to be. I've got to become a knight." And so he leaves his mother, with great tears, and he goes off on this quest. And most of us, he didn't know, but that's an important point. I wanted to bring this up, is that most of us in our youth, in our childhood, or maybe early adolescenthood, have an experience, a profound experience of divinity, of sacred, beyond our normal consciousness, that kind of just does something to us, plants a seed. And then later on, either we nourish that seed and how we live, or it kind of gets lost for a while, but it always comes back. So that's important too. And I think that's very important to finding the answers to what is my purpose, who am I, how do I fit into this thing, is to go back to those early sources in your own psyche and in your own dreams. So our young hero, Parsifal, goes off on the quest, and he has many adventures and misadventures. And he gets a vision. First, I think he meets the fisherman, who is like, the fisherman Jesus. I mean, there's all this symbology going on here. And he's cooking a fish, and he says, "Can I have a bite?" And he takes a bite of this hot fish, and he burns himself, burns his mouth, and he gets his wound, which follows him. So it's like the holy wound, which is like what I'm talking about, is these early visions of when you're, that we've had when we were children. And so then he finally goes and he gets the vision of the castle. He's still a very young man, and the castle, and you see they're carrying the Grail, and there's the Fisher King who's wounded, and there's all these things going on. And he's just like, cool, right? But he doesn't ask the right question, and the vision goes away, poof. So he's left, so there's this wound from touching the fish, and the early symbol of Jesus, right? In Christian, it wasn't a cross, it was a fish, the earliest ones. Make you fishers of men, etc. And so he goes through all of this stuff to finally, in the end, after, and it's just rusted, beat up armor and beat up body, he gets the vision of the Grail Castle once more, and he goes in. But this time, he asks the right question, okay, which is essential to this story, brings it all together. And he says, ask, whom does the Grail serve? Remember that, whom does the Grail serve? And that's it. And then the story ends. It was never finished. So de Troyes did not wrap it up for us with a bow. Either he did that as an act of genius, that we all have to ask, find the castle for ourselves, and we all have to ask that right question, or he just died before he finished it. Then later on, people came in, they tried to finish it, but I think leave well enough alone. And so we're left with that question, whom does the Grail serve? So in finding that, and what is the Grail? The Grail is, well, it's several things. It's the mystery of divinity, the mystery of existence, what you and I are at the deepest, most profound level. That's part of the vision. And like, you're the everything, okay? It's a non-dual bam, you're it. But at the same time, you are also little bitty, itty bitty you. And little itty bitty you is a project that the universe as we know it right now has been working on about 13.7 billion years. And from my learnings and teachings, that little itty bitty dinky you is really, really important and really matters. So we have to find out what we are on the biggest level, but then we have to focus it down to what we are here to accomplish in this lifetime. Okay, the two essential things. So that's where it started, and I was always looking for my dog Tatum has a squeaky ball with spikes on it, and she's so obsessed with it. And I was meditating the other day, and Spirit said, or whatever that inner voice was, it says, that's God is your squeaky ball, and because I'm been focused on this deeper meaning thing ever since I was a child. And I had my vision quest, my first opening when I was around 11 years old. And this came back to me after very many years. And this is the little New Testament that they gave us during school. You could hand out, and I've got to patch it up. And it was given to me in 1967. And sometime after that, I don't know exactly when, I started reading it. And I grew up Catholic, so we didn't read a lot of scripture. We were sacramental, that's what Catholics did. So I started reading the Sermon on the Mount, and I just got to the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be, all that. And boom, I had this huge class 5 experience of God that 11-year-old can have, right? And the answer was, the experience was, God is everywhere, and God is love. And I'm love, and this came through this, what Jesus was saying. Who the hell is Jesus? I've seen Jesus my whole life. He's hanging on the wall, or statues, all of it. And then it's just, why didn't I ever get this before? And I was just blown away. And that started me. That was me biting into the fish in my holy wound. So since then, I've been haunted by God. And that was the beginning of my journey. So years later, I was living in the Bay Area, and I found the book of the Vision Quest by Stephen Foster and Meredith Little. This little book, and I think it's still in print. You can find it. And I read that one. Yes, this is what I need to do. So I found a place. My wife and I, we weren't married then, but might have been. We've been together for a long time. And I went out to Utah wilderness, and I was at a place called Dark Canyon, which is a mythologically great name for a place to do a vision quest. And I got out there, and I didn't know that you could have support people to help you. I just thought, here we go. It's me and God. And I got really ill, diarrhea, and felt like I was dying. And I'm like leaning up against a juniper tree. Been very connected to juniper trees ever since then. And birds started lighting on me. It's like, they must think I'm dead, because I certainly feel like it. And then later on, I kind of started feeling better after a couple of days, and I had the vision. I had the vision of a wolf's face looking at me from across the canyon. The trees morphed into, like you see in CGI stuff, where clouds will morph into something. Well, it morphed into a wolf looking me straight in the eyes. And I was looking at it, and who knows how long it lasted. Time does weird things when we're in these altered spaces. And that was the vision of the wolf that followed me. And I had to learn a lot about the wolves. And that was the beginning of my quest for vision. So then later on, I began to, I did more than one vision quest, but I started, helping other people to accomplish vision quests. Was like, but how can you stay sober if you don't have a deeper reason to stay sober? And it should be obvious. You don't want to die, you don't want to go to jail and everything, but often for addicts, that's not enough. You need something more important to hang your life on. And so we started doing that, finding our purposes. And of course, as things develop, when you teach, you get back also. So we decided to do this vision quest online. This is the 3rd time we've done it. And who knows if this thing's going to work, right? It's just like, God just telling me to do, Spirit saying, so we better do it. And we did the first one. We had 100 people, and It was amazing. You know, in the traditional way, of course, is to go out in the wilderness and you know, fast and separate yourself. But this was different. And we started using the brain entrainment technology because that puts you into the same states of consciousness, or at least very similar states of consciousness that would take you a long, long time. You were fasting, you know, and you get right there. And then if you ask the right question, whom does the Grail serve? Like Parsifal had to learn. And you do that with a sincere heart and humility. And you don't have to figure out everything. You don't even have to believe in God. You know, it doesn't matter. You're asking this question: whom does the Grail serve? What is the mystery of my existence here to realize and here to do? Please, please, please tell me. And with your help, I will try to walk that path. And that's how it started, and that's where it starts. And Bob, I'm going to let you speak at this point because I've said an awful lot.
It's beautiful all that you're saying. Thank you, John. Thank you. Maybe one piece, just to add this as a postscript. I just feel like it's so full what you've said. When Carl Jung was in correspondence with the founders of what became Alcoholics Anonymous, he wrote this Latin phrase. He said he had never treated somebody who had an addiction issue where a spiritual experience wasn't necessary to be able to sustain sobriety, and where a vision wasn't at the core of it. And the Latin phrase was spiritus contra spiritum. And so it would be like kind of that double play with the word spirits. You drive down the road and you see a store that's selling liquor and it says spirits. And that would be what he's referring to in terms of spiritum. And spiritus would be all that you're talking about, John. That would be the wolf's face, or whatever it is that draws one. It's back to Rumi, where he says, there are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are infinite pathways to this, but it needs to go deep enough for it to supplant spiritus. We need to have a spiritual
the power of the addiction, the power of alcohol. It has to be pretty heavy to supplant that. Yeah.
I like how it is that he was heir apparent to his intellectual father, Sigmund Freud, and they split over this difference. But Jung said, in fact, clients would come to him, this is back in Zurich, clients would come to him and he'd say, I think you need to work with Freud. And he'd refer them to Freud or Freudians to work on what Jung called the first half of life, which would be what the Hindus call the householder phase, just the householder phase. Jung said, I'm interested in the second half of life, what the Hindu tradition would call the forest dweller. And the second half of life centers around issues of value and meaning and purpose. That's what Jung was interested in. He said, if you want to work with somebody on your early developmental issues, I think Freud's the ticket. But if you want to work with me, I'm interested in spiritus. I'm interested in vision. He was a visionary, as you well know. Yeah. And he's had such a huge impact on you and me and those that have influenced us. And so I think that's really what we're talking about, is that, I like how you talked about the kids at Passages to Recovery. They said, we want to go on a vision quest. And the initial response is, no, you need to be a grown-up to do that. The fact is that the second half of life entered for you at age 11. Yeah. And the same for me very early on, is that I was touched by something, and all of us have been, and some of us end up, like you're saying. I love that poem from the 1800s, The Hound of Heaven. Some of us are pursued by the Hound of Heaven from earliest on. I was, and you were. And so that doesn't obey chronological age, does it? It's like, whatever it is that whatever vision calls us, it comes when it comes, and it's not a function of age. There are plenty of people, you and I were just talking about this yesterday, John, the idea that wisdom comes with aging. Not necessarily at all. Wisdom comes when it comes, and there are young 11-year-olds, you are one of them, that are touched by age-old wisdom in their hearts and are and are called to follow that from early on. So the visionary quest touches us when it touches us. And I feel grateful to know you, John, and a handful of other souls that are equally thirsty or hungry for that. And I'm assuming the people that are joining us here today have a similar hunger and can identify that when Rumi says, let the beauty we love be what we do, that's it. That's it. Let me do what it is that I love. Let me be what it is that calls me. That's the visionary quest, right?
Yeah. And yeah, we, at this later stage in life, you get to choose. Do you get to be an elder, which has medicine to give and love and support for the generations coming behind us chronologically, or we just be grumpy old dudes that it's just a burden, and oh God, here we go again. And no, well, we don't want to be that. And of course, if you're younger than that, you've got to you don't want to waste years. Trust me, as an older guy, life goes so fast, and you don't want to waste your formative years. And who knows what those are, but once you begin to feel that, so if you're there for that reason, and I would venture to say that anybody who's listening to this, there's something off. You thought vision quest, something clicked. It might have been that holy wound that you haven't quite worked out, or maybe you're reached a point, you've done what you're supposed to do at this phase of your life, and it's like, oh, now what? I don't want to retire. I've got nothing besides my work. What's the next phase of my life? Or you're getting ready. What do you want me to study in school? Or should I serve in the military? Or should, or I go out and wander in the woods, or whatever it's going to be. But to begin to ask the question and to start walking the path. And when we start doing that, again, Jung says synchronicities start piling up. It's like, oh, boom. I used to say I'd be in a bookstore and a book would fly off the shelf and hit me in the head. Oh, I'm supposed to read this. And it became a huge clue. So in some ways, it's also a spiritual detective story, because, you have your past and you begin to put all the different pieces together that begins to form a coherent holy whole, if you will. And, oh, okay, there it is. And it doesn't end. The vision quest, it's just the vision quest keeps growing and keeps going. And the visions that we had, or the powerful dreams we had when we were children, expand and they become a deeper meaning, and they reveal themselves more and more as you go on, as your life. Just like in the study of the Holy Scriptures, I had a Jewish teacher say to me one time, and in studying the Torah, there's a scripture, there's God, and there's the reader. And with time and study, there is only God. It all comes together. So that's the kind of the way it goes. And what else? It's the time is limited. So what should I talk about? Well, let me just also, this is a new thing we're doing. It's the third time, so we've learned some lessons. So we will be meditating together during our time together. I'll give a talk. We'll talk about it, different phases or different things that we need to work on in the vision quest. It's like, what do I need to let go? What, there's these medicine questions that have to be encountered. And we need to start really paying attention to our dreams while we're going through that part. Because when we are on the vision quest, when we've asked that question, when we set ourselves the intentionality that I want to find out who and what I am and what I'm supposed to be doing, our unconscious life really begins to heat up. Okay. And we will find that at the end of each day, we'll have a time to compare notes and to ask questions and stuff like that. And strangely enough, your dream might be exactly the thing the other guy was looking for. And so traditionally, it's a very kind of solitary thing. Well, this becomes more of a community thing. But I have a bunch of all these quotes from people that have gone through it. I'll just trust me, they're really good. But it was such a holy, magical thing. We really felt we were in the hands of something beyond ourselves, and it really took over. And it also, again, I had a vision that kind of, oh, thank you. I wasn't looking for a vision. I was like, I was being a midwife. I didn't expect to have a baby myself during the process, if you will. So yes, I did. And I am currently going through a spiritual retreat vision quest process that has gone on for at least 6 weeks now, and I have a couple more weeks to go. And I will, once I get through it, I'll if you listen to the podcast, you'll learn more about what I experienced. But one of the things I learned in this that I think is very key to all of us, that I wanted in some way to heal myself from a lot of the wounds, a lot of the hurts, a lot of the stuff, the tragedies that build up in one's life. And what I learned is that my brokenness was sacred. Okay. And I'm not healed to heal my brokenness. I'm here to have a new relationship with that. And that brokenness, that wounding becomes a path and a portal, a path to lead us to our deeper purpose, and a portal for us to walk the path of our lives with a vision and a mission. And once you get that, it just, like the Zinnis say that before enlightenment, chop would carry water. After enlightenment, chop would carry water. Some people say, oh, that's just, same old thing. Again, nothing happens. No, it's not true. It's you're chopping wood and carrying water, but there's a whole new dimensionality and an understanding and a luminous understanding of what chopping wood and carrying water, or what your life is supposed to be about. Everything becomes a part of the dream and part of the vision, and it all has meaning. It comes together if we keep that open attitude, and we pray the right prayers, and we set our intentionality that we're here to find out who and what we are. And a lot of you, I assume, are not rookies at all this, that you've been on the path for a while, you've been practicing for a while and stuff. And this will meet you wherever stage in your development you're in, and take you from there. And all the work that you've done on yourself in the past is not time wasted, it's cumulative, and it's so good. And it'll be with us, and it's part of this community as we hold this space together. Hi, Louie. That's a message. When Louie shows up, there's something going to happen.
I just wanted to interrupt a little bit, and maybe we can get into like a Q&A, and we can continue some conversation. But John, I have a question for you specifically, because you've been telling us that this is our third time that we're doing this, correct? So exactly how can we do like maybe I'll just maybe say a little bit of preamble, but we started doing this the online vision, or the virtual vision quest, when COVID started, pandemic started, and everybody was in lockdown, right? So I guess the question is, how can we do like a vision quest from the comfort of our own homes?
Well, first it assumes you have a comfortable home. And anyway, how can we do that? Because the universe in its brilliance has evolved us into beings that know how to set up these things. And I've been, leading meditations and whatnot for years on the internet. So the spirit is not limited by time or space. I mean, we are here. People from all over the world are here right now. And for whatever reasons, our experience shows that, that it really, really works well. And, the fact that you're in your own home can be, well, it's good to go out in the wilderness, right? Because it's really different. But at the same time, you're a place where you're comfortable. That's your space, and that you can let yourself go and go deep. And with the instructions, what we've learned from a lifetime of working with this, and of course with we'll be meditating together using the technology when we're as a group, and then we'll have assignments when we go back to meditate and journal and ask the questions. And each session of meditation will have a particular purpose, and you will be amazed to see that when you go in and you ask the right questions with an open, sincere heart, the universe is more than happy. The universe, I would say, is eager to respond and get you and let you know what you need to know. Maybe not in the way you thought. So you have to really stay alert and open, because God shows up in God, the God with 1,000 faces or 1,000,000 faces, right? In many different ways. And each one is our own specific holy experience.
Thank you. And John, also there's another point I wanted to talk about here, which is like the comparison between doing a wilderness vision quest versus vision quest at home, and how does the technology like brainwave entrainment play into like an ancient tradition? Is it okay to do that? Is it like maybe a form of cheating somehow, or how does?
Well, the first time they did a kind of a vision quest and somebody brought out drums or log to beat on, they're probably going, that's cheating, dude. We don't do logs and sticks, we've never done it like that. So yeah, we've been developing our technologies. We are technological beings, okay? And we use it for good or for ill. So why it's the same is because our ancestors, all of our ancestors, they knew about these altered states where you could learn, where you could find out where the buffalo were, or get the strength and the courage and the medicine you need to serve your people, and are looking into the fire. That's another technology. Try that. You can go on YouTube and just find a fire picture, and just sit there and meditate and look at that. That's pretty heavy technology. Just the fire itself, this flickering light, alters the brainwave state. So my contention is that this technology is allowing us to go into these deeper brainwave states that we used to have to do with separation or fasting or drumming or dancing all together, whatever we were using, or sweat lodges and heated stones, without doing that. And it doesn't take away from the other. It's just not all of us are in the place where we can do that right now. So this sets us up in a state of consciousness, a brainwave state, these lower powerful brainwaves states where our inner wisdom can begin to emerge, our sense of connectedness, our ego boundaries could become more porous. And it sets us, it's the same purpose as that original guy that was beating on the log with a stick or lighting the fire. All that to do is to change us into this holy way that the spirit or the great spirit can come and speak to us and show us what we're supposed to be doing and give us guidance. Same thing, just different technology. And we just developed technology. And I feel that the evolutionary force of God is in the technology also. So it ain't cheating. It's all good. And, we just be humble and grateful. And anyway, that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah, that was amazing. I'm one of John's students. He guided me into a vision quest in their home in Utah in 2019. That was my very first vision quest, and it was a beautiful and life-changing experience for me. And then I'm just so glad that the following year we did it again. Albeit it's online. So I have a question for Dr. Bob, and then I'll get to everybody's questions. So Dr. Bob, you have, we have collaborated a few times in the past, and the one that we just did was very recent. You have produced, or you have created the Freedom of Forgiveness, the guided meditation track, the Freedom of Forgiveness, and then recently, which was just a few weeks ago, was the Gift of Gratitude. Now, can you tell us how do these practices somehow integrate into like a vision quest practice or finding one's purpose?
Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Louie. I learned a lot from you, John, very early on in my own recovery process, and how you helped me to understand my practice moving forward is that I wanted to learn how to practice on a daily basis mindful attention to the body, to the mind, to the soul, to the spirit, and to the shadow. That's just been my way of organizing this. And so you and I are both committed to physical exercise and nourishment and sleep. Both you and I are committed to developing our minds. Look at the books behind you, and I guess some books behind me. I think of soul as being in between mind and spirit, and this is idiosyncratic to me, but I think of soul being the zone of creative self-expression. And both you and I are committed to creativity as a way of living, not only in the art and the music we create, but just in how we interact with one another. But the latter two are the ones that are related to the two iAwake tracks projects, it seems to me. In terms of, I'll start with shadow work. There's nothing that's been more impactful. That's the truth. In my own recovery process than doing shadow work via what I learned from Buddhism, which would be forgiveness practice. And so the freedom of forgiveness, that entire project is centered around shadow work. And I practiced it this morning. I practiced it every morning. And over the last dozen years, way many mornings than not. It's self-reinforcing. So for doing deep shadow work, both in terms of working out forgiveness from others, as well as the most significant for me has been forgiveness of myself in terms of self-compassion. It's been like a laser surgery for me, and I'm so grateful. You know this, John, you do too, Louie, is that there is no way to compare who Bob Weathers is today to who I was 12 years ago in terms of issues like shame versus self-compassion, and this practice is right at the heart of it. So that's about the freedom of forgiveness. Highly recommend that. The more recent project is kind of a culmination of something else I've done for 12 years, which is gratitude practice. And this I see is really related to all that you've been talking about, John, which has to do with, I think of this as being spiritual, of cultivating spirituality, is that at the heart of any spiritual practice, it seems like to me, is recognizing who we are in relationship to whatever we think of as greater than us. And the fundamental tonality of that to me is thankfulness or gratitude. And so I've over the years developed this, because I'm a psychologist by background, it makes sense that I would refer to psychology. Maslow's hierarchy that many people are aware of, whether they're in psychology or not. I practice this every morning. And so I practice gratitude for my physical well-being, and it's quite detailed. You and I are working on a project that will come out in a few months that is specific to recovery, where I include my sobriety in that in terms of my physical well-being. So I look at that. I express gratitude for that every morning. All of I've come to call it the acts of courageous self-kindness, the things I do to be kind to myself. Everything from exercise to music to being in nature to relationships to quiet time meditation, all of that. So that's part of what I do every morning, and that's in the gratitude practice. And just real quickly, I also express gratitude for any sense of security I have in my life, both physical and relational and spiritual. I express gratitude for the people that are centermost in my life, starting with my wife and my daughter. John, you're in my prayers every morning. It's not even a question. You're in my prayers every morning, and they're centered around gratitude. And my body right now tells me that I'm telling the truth because I get the chills. It's so powerful for me. And then the last two aspects of the gratitude practice are gratitude for whatever it is I can do to contribute today. And that's typically in the context of my work. I think about every client I'm going to see each morning before I see them. I do this first of the day, and express gratitude for the opportunity to sit for an hour or more with an individual or a couple. It's very meaningful to me. And my prayer is that I be able to contribute something of worth today. And so that starts off my day. And the final piece is really what the Vision Quest is all about. All of these things are about what the Vision Quest is about. But what Maslow calls self-actualization, I spend time in my own personal way expressing gratitude for being able to transform in such a way that I am more and more transparent to what wants to move through me into the world to help evolve this planet. And that's why I'm here. And I'm grateful for anything that contributes to that. And so every morning I get to, there's a way that it's like daily Vision Quest. And there's value to what you're talking about, a very concentrated, and you and I both had these very concentrated experiences. And what came to me early in recovery, John, and you know this, is I realized it won't do for me to work the 12 steps, for example, which I worked. It won't do for me to work that once or even twice. I need to find a way to work this every day. And I learned this from you, John. And so body, mind, soul, spirit, shadow work, it's a part of every day. And the gratitude practice is gratitude for each one of those elements. So that's in a nutshell what that project is about. And I'd love for people to access that and improvise in their own personal way with that material too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And I think we'll find as we move deeper into this process that those are two essential aspects. And I just had a vision while you were talking in my mind's eye,
Beautiful.
and like you're
Beautiful.
boiling something that like the sacred fire is beginning to go and the water is starting to percolate. It's working, but to the top, there's going to come this layer of stuff that'll keep you from the water below. And to remove that, you need to practice gratitude and forgiveness. That will get your way. And even if you don't seriously feel it, just God help me to forgive. And I'm willing, you know, because some you can't just, it's not easy. Sometimes it just takes a moment of grace to let go of that stuff. But if you're conscious and willing to do that, then you can get access to the deeper experiences of the divine or spirit or God. And from that begins your individual path begins to open up, and you begin to find your way to walk the path.
May I share a story with you, John? You just reminded me of it. The image of the steam comes to mind. This is a story about Carl Jung. In the last year of his life, he was deep into his 80s. He was interviewed by the BBC on his property there, just off of Lake Zurich in Switzerland. And there's a creek that goes along that river. I actually went there years ago. I got to visit this. I felt really amazed to be in that location. And he's being interviewed, and the interviewer says, Dr. Jung, you've been practicing psychotherapy for 60 or 70 odd years. What do you think is the heart of the psychotherapeutic enterprise? And what Jung did, Jung was a big man. He was about 6'4", and he was strong, even into his 80s. He reached down, he straddled that creek on his property. He reached down into the creek and lifted a fairly sizable boulder out of the water, out of the creek that was flowing, lifted the boulder out, dropped it onto the bank, got back and kept on walking. That was his answer. That was his answer. And I've never forgotten that. Your image just reminded me of that. Is that part of the work of getting clear about our vision is to clean the mirror. And Jung put it in terms of lifting the boulder out of the stream. The stream will go where it wants to, just get stuff out of the way that impedes it. And that's really, I think that's what the gratitude practice and the shadow work around self-compassion or self-forgiveness, that's what they've accomplished for me. It's not a single thing, it's a daily thing. And if you do that for 10 or 12 years, you're going to be different at a molecular level.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you, John. Yeah. So we should move on now to the Q&A. We have a few questions, but before that, I just want to remind everybody again that, and John has talked about it too, that we are doing again, or we're introducing again our next iteration of the 5-day virtual vision quest. So the enrollment is now open. So the 5-day vision quest is a life-changing experience guided by John and supported by a community of fellow vision questers, which I'm hoping it's going to be all of us in this workshop today. So this journey includes inspiring and informative guidance and talks, daily opportunities for questions and sharing, and daily group meditation using iAwake's transformative tools. In addition, there will also be individual tasks and interior practice to be conducted each day on your own. So we're hoping that during the 5 days that we're going to be doing this virtual vision quest, it will be.
And there'll also be a dream journal that'll be part of that.
There'll also be a dream
Very,
journal,
very
yeah.
important.
And I will be here to answer the medicine question. What am I here to learn right now? So anyway, let's now move to our Q&A. Now I'd like to bring in somebody who's watching us today. Michael, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Icebrenner. He's the very first who actually enrolled for the 5-day Vision Quest workshop. So I'm bringing him in so he could ask his questions directly to you, John and Bob. Hey, Michael.
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah, loud and clear. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to know how, it starts at 9 a.m. Pacific. How long does each session last?
Louie, what do you think?
Maybe an hour to an hour and a half each day, depending on the content, plus like the daily meditations.
Okay, so if I block out 2-3 hours each day, I'll be fine.
Yeah, well, and then there's the work you do without the group,
Sure.
that takes another. Yeah.
Well, and I'm always doing work.
You'll do well.
But this is appropriate for right now. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you so much, Michael. We also have a question. I have a family event during August class schedule. Is everything recorded? Yes, everything, David, will be recorded. We'll send you the recording at the end of each day, and we'll also be sending the links to access all of the recordings for those who will enroll at the end of the 5-day vision quest. I'm going to be answering some questions here. I have a question from the Lumiere. I'm very interested in the virtual Vision Quest program. I notice it includes the Vision Quest tracks and the Journey to the Depths of the Soul. I already have both of these in the app. It won't duplicate these tracks in my app if I sign up, right? So just to answer this, if anyone already owned their Vision Quest or Journey to the Depths of the Soul previously, and you still want to sign up for the virtual Vision Quest, please email, you can still order, please sign up. Please send us an email with your receipt, and we will be sending you replacement tracks if there's any.
Yeah, we won't hold it against you.
Yeah, if you're interested in another iAwake track, we'll be definitely sending you
That's brilliant. Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We have a question from David. What is your relationship to iLife? John, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. Well, but before it was iLife, it was Integral Naked way back when. And that's when I got turned on to Ken Wilber the second time, once he started coming out with the integral stuff. And it was there. And I had a very, very life-changing spiritual opening in so many ways, professional, everything changed. And so I have great affection for it. I feel it's like my mother church, and I've been to a lot of conferences where integral people get together and have a great love for the community. And obviously respect for Ken Wilber and all he's given us. I'm also, along with Bob, we started the Ken Wilber Gratitude Fund to in some way pay back Ken and all the support and all the love that he's given us. And Corey DeVoe, I'm a dear friend, and he's a brilliant man. And so it's just lots of love, and not like we hadn't had our little familiar squabbles, but none that I can think of at the moment, nothing that really matters. And yes, I'm just really, really supportive and feel deep love for that community.
We're very grateful for iLife for supporting this event today. We have a question from Phyllis that Heidi already gave us some answer to a little earlier, which is this a Christian approach to Vision Quest? This is for you, John.
Yeah. Well, I started out Christian. I showed you my little beat up New Testament. So I definitely have my roots there, but I'm also integral Christian, which means that God shows up in a lot of different ways. And I'm using I'm kind of Christian because that's just how God presented it to me in the beginning. But I have a deep love for Buddhism and Sufism and the native traditions. And so it's got that, because in some ways it's coming through me, but I hope I don't pound, on your head and, and try to force a Christian thing. That's something between you and your soul, or you and Christ, or whatever. So yeah, it definitely has that influence. And I'm not embarrassed anymore to say God. I used to say God and say, well, God, or mystery of this or that. And every time I said it, it's like really annoying. So once we get into it, I'll just say God as the God of my understanding. So it has roots there, but it's not limited at all to Christianity, but deeply, deeply influenced in my case by Christianity. Yeah, and I fought with it for years too. So
yeah, and a lot of people who have also joined the previous virtual Vision Quest also are coming from like different traditions, or they're combining these different traditions into one, since we're all, I guess, in the integral community. So everything is integrated into one. So yeah, it's going to be like a very diverse conversation in terms of like all of these different traditions. I'd like to answer a few more questions. So let's see, if I understood correctly, this Vision Quest will be for 5 days, correct? So The Vision Quest will be from August 23rd through August 27th. So that will be from Wednesday to Sunday during that week. And that begins at 9 a.m. Pacific time and 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. I think we have a question for about Central Europe. I think it's going to be around 6 o'clock, I think, Central time. So we're hoping that you can make it, but if not, there's also going to be replay links that will be sent at the end of the day. And during that week too, if you have any questions, please send us an email. If you can't make it and we have like this, burning question you wanted to ask John, and we'll definitely answer that during the 5-day Vision Quest. Let's see.
Yeah, but be there. Make a way for you to be there.
Be there. Yeah, please, because it's a very there's a different energy too when doing it live. Like there's a transmission that's coming from John. There's also a transmission coming from everyone who's attending the virtual Vision Quest. Yeah, which is really amazing. George, yes, it's about an hour and a half every day that starts at the same time. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think let's see if there's more questions here. Yeah, so I think these are the only questions. Oh, would you recommend to someone who has already a daily practice with profound meditation 3.0 to back off during a 5-day event? This is for you, John.
Absolutely. Next question. No, yeah, that is just an added blessing or aid in this whole thing. So it doesn't disqualify you at all. It's a huge help.
Yeah. Susan, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to as integral practice or the integral community. Is that important for joining this? Nope.
No, and I'm informed by that, but it's fine. And I won't be speaking integralese, hopefully, most of the time. And if I do, Louie will slap me from across the ocean and, okay, and I'll explain what I'm doing. But integral is just a way of, it's holism with a map. It's all connected, but it kind of shows us how it all fits together. I'm informed by that, but it won't be just strictly speaking in a language that only integrally informed people understand. Not at all.
Yeah. And George, George has a question. If one like me is more aligned with a humanist persuasion, not an atheist, is there room for me to do the Vision Quest?
Of course. I'm very humanist in my persuasion too, I would like to add. And so it doesn't matter. There's a quote, I can't remember where I heard it, but it stuck with me. I think it was a teenager. And he says, there's more faith in the doubt of an honest person than in all the archangels in the mind of God. So yeah, doubt is good. Not knowing is good. Being an agnostic, you don't know. But you're, as Cassie even said, but you're on the road to find out. That's a very sacred, holy place. It needs to be respected. You don't have to be a card carrying anything, and you can't. And not knowing it's always like that, and that's how we learn, whatever it be, whether it confirms that path or not. So, absolutely, and I think we all have a place of depth in us that we're going to be reaching for here, and you can interpret it. I mean, your vision will be your vision. You won't come out a Christian or a Muslim unless that's where you already are, or that's where it leads you. So this is very open-ended, and it's a way to ask the right question and find that castle and whom does the Grail serve, and get your own very personal, but at the same time, universal answer.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very universal experience, and it's a very inclusive program. So, it doesn't matter what tradition you follow. I think the Vision Quest would be perfect for that. I just wanted to share for everyone who still have any questions about the Vision Quest and how it's gonna play out. I just wanted to share about like what's gonna happen on day 1 of the Vision Quest, at least according to the workbook, which Heidi already discussed in the chat too. But the first question already, encourages the participant, or the Vision Quest participant, or Vision Questee, I guess, or quester, to ask themselves, do I already know what my calling is? but need affirmation and clarification to proceed with the full strength and courage of my resolve. Um, and just
Yes.
letting the greats establishing your intention to find your life path and mission. So it's about getting clear and opening to the sacred mystery, and whatever comes, during the 5 days, hopefully, is going to be answered there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, John.
Yeah, well, I'm going through another Vision Quest retreat right now. And I've been doing this stuff for a long time. So it's not like, okay, I got it. Thanks, God. Yeah, hang up and that's it. No, is there something that just keeps developing and developing and developing, and new understandings evolve. And, and not only do you have the great strategic thing that you're supposed to be doing, but you get the tactical things. How am I supposed to move at this point in my life, and where do I reach out, or where's my leverage point right now? So yeah, if you know that, I think it's wonderful. And I think if that's what you have is real, then this will just reaffirm, what your soul already knows. And that's really good. That's really comforting. And that gives us courage and strength and hope and faith to carry on and walk our path well.
Yeah. So before I guess we can close in a bit, but I just have one last question, which is, maybe somebody doesn't have the time, or somebody doesn't have the resources right now to join this. But if you're having troubles in that aspect, to please, contact us. But John, is there any tip that you can give us in terms of, like, I just wanted to do a vision quest maybe tomorrow. From home, what are the things that I should be thinking about or should be considering? Like, how do I prepare for that if I'm going to be doing this from my room?
Yeah, well, if you already have a practice, if you're already using iAwake, that's a big help. And if not, get some. Okay, go. It's a free app wherever you get your apps. Apple or whatever the ones use, and just download the free app, and it'll show you all the specific, a very large library of these tools, so you can start. That will really get you ready to go, and just start kind of being aware that you're getting ready to do something very powerful. Put your soul on notice that you're getting ready to approach the great mystery with these powerful, life affirming and changing questions. And so whatever you can do to prepare yourself, just start kind of being more aware, more mindful in your everyday life, and more mindful of your relationships. And okay, I'm getting ready to move into holy ground. So maybe, like, Moses, God told him, take your shoes off, your sandals off, this is holy ground. Okay. So yeah, just awareness. And I say this often, I'm glad I just remembered it, but the vision quest begins when you decide to go on the vision quest. So if you're thinking right now you're going to do it, it's already started. Okay, so start being aware in your practices, and just tighten up your practice a little bit, and start paying attention to your dreams, and start paying attention to people you meet, and the bird that's in your front yard, and just start being aware that it's all God, and they're all can be used to give us information and strength and blessing from beyond our normal states of consciousness. And that's what we want to do with the Vision Quest. We want to take that sacred space and blend it together, so that we it's not just an alternative. I used to say the old joke, the old hippie go, yeah, I met God back in 1968 in Oaxaca when I did mushrooms. So that's great. What's happened since then? So it's to bring these worlds together so that we walk in a more awake, a sacred, wiser, more effective, compassionate way of being in the world, because that's what our family, and not just our human family, but all the beings on this planet need from us right now. And that's what we're working on here to develop, to find your specific path and talent that you need to develop in order to gift us all back with it.
And Heidi also beautifully said it, for anybody who's interested in just doing it now, starting your vision quest at your home. get quiet, go within, go deep, ask the right questions with heroic intent. So, I hope that's going to be useful. She also said in the chat, and I just wanted to point this out. It's very fun how when the Vision Quest participants come together the next day and share their experiences, how there are wonderful synchronicities and connections that happen with the group. This is very, very true. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be a participant in a sacred circle. So get your act together if it ain't, so that you can be a blessing to everybody there. It's like we're going to go on this journey together. And even though we're separated, in space-time, on the other sides of the world, in some cases, it's very intimate and it's very connected. And we're going to be going there together. So get ready. It's started.
Yeah. All right. I think.
Excuse me, Bob, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
I'm so happy to be here to support you, brother. I'm smiling throughout. I also so appreciate your eloquence. You speak from such a deep, true place, John. So just blessings and love to you and to everybody that gets the wonderful opportunity to join you. It's wonderful.
And I want to put in, this is a very, very, very sincere plug that Bob takes on clients, okay? And his specialty has been people that are struggling with, addictions, but it's definitely not limited to that. When I have deep soul questions, or I'm wounded, or I'm confused, I don't know, I go to Bob. So if you feel a connection with Bob as I do, and how, you can email us at iAwake or any of our numbers, and I'll give you all the contact information for Bob, and set up a conversation with him to see if it's something that you want to do. And that could be very much a part of this Vision Quest experience too, is connecting with Bob. I couldn't recommend anybody more highly.
You can check out, and I've put in the links in the chat box, but please check out Dr. Bob Weathers' work at drbobweathers.com. He has, everything that he's doing. You can see.
Yeah, Weathers, like the weather, same way. Bob Weathers, and contact me if anyway, we'll get you in touch.
Yeah. Please get in touch with us, or please get in touch with Dr. Bob. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is it for us. Thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you, John and Dr. Bob, for this beautiful conversation today. So this is the official end of the Power of the Vision Quest workshop. So just a quick and final reminder that our 5-day virtual Vision Quest enrollment is now open. So Sabi, if you can please put the link in the chat box, that would be great. So our enrollment will be open until Monday, August 21st or August 21, 2023. During this 5-day virtual Vision Quest, we will utilize brainwave entrainment audio technology. So apart from the Vision Quest tracks and the Journey to the Depths of the Soul tracks, John has a surprise for everyone. I think we're going to be doing surprise tracks every day, different iAwake tracks. So, that's going to be, very interesting. And I'm looking forward to that, where we can access altered states of consciousness and where the work happens and the wisdom begins. We will begin every day with the Dharma talk by John to talk about the topic for the day, and then followed by a group meditation, and then a Q&A.
Yeah, using technology.
Using the technology, and then a Q&A where everybody can ask John and the community too questions. This is a time for conversation too, not just with John, but with everybody else who's,
and share your experience, share
your experiences, your thoughts and experiences during this 5 days. I think there's magic in that, in that conversation within the community. We also have a Facebook group. So anyway, when you sign up, you'll receive a lot of these all of these information. So the Vision Quest starts on Wednesday, August 23rd. So if we're so grateful to everyone who showed up today for this very special presentation. John and Dr. Bob, are there any last words that you want to impart the Vision Quest community before we close?
Well, I got something. It's like there's a sacred container around this Vision Quest. So what happens in the Vision Quest, what we share there stays within the Vision Quest. Okay. It's also, I want to say, God bless you, Slovenia. I can't read the chat room because there's so much going on here, but I just saw somebody from Slovenia sent their love, so I'm sending it back to you. Thank you.
Blessings and best wishes to everyone as you engage with John in this vision quest. It's an honor to be here with all of you, and I wish you all blessings and lots of love.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sabi and Heidi and Louie. Love you guys. Thank you.